This week we'll take a look at the cursors library and how you can use it to make ASCII information displays or even ASCII animations, which can be useful in some of your processing work. But we're going to use it to create our very own New Year's falling ball to ring in 2022. Welcome to another MetPy Monday. Hello, I'm John Lehman, a software engineer for Unidata. This week I wanted to look at the curses or the console library, depending on if you're on a Windows or a Mac Unix machine. Both of these libraries basically do the same thing, but with a little bit different syntax. I'm on a Windows machine, so I'll be using the console library, which you can pip install. These libraries let you control the position of the print cursor in the terminal, and they let you do things like apply colors to the foreground and background, or effects like flashing. And this really lets you create some pretty nice ASCII displays. You can do things like create progress bars, or create a scrolling information display, say showing incoming data from a station or tracking of a radio sonde. Now, ASCII displays aren't always the neatest display you can get, but they are much quicker to create than a full GUI, and oftentimes that's all you need for a field program. So what we're going to do is create an instance of the falling New Year's ball, like in New York City. And when it hits the bottom, we'll say Unidata. We're going to create some color animation on it, and it will count down 60 seconds to whatever time we specify. Now the code for this is a little bit long to type out while we're talking, so we're going to go through it together, and I will post the code down in the description of the video as well. All right, so first we're going to do our imports. I'm going to use the time library so I can control my animation times. We're going to use the console.screen, the foreground, background, and effects submodules as well. We're really only going to use foreground, but I'll go ahead and import those because they're sometimes fun to play with. Import floor division from math, the random library, and the datetime object from the datetime library. The first thing I need to do is create a list of colors that I'm going to use in my animation. It so happens that console supports many of the X11 color names, so I just went through and picked an assortment. You can see I've got red, yellow, blue, green, the default screen color, medium purple, sienna, salmon, and so on. Just some nice bright colors that we're going to use in animation. Next, we set our target time. So we'll change this before we run the program. You can set this to any time in the future for the countdown to happen. If it's in the past, then the ball will already be at the bottom. And it will count down our goal is to count down for the last minute up to this time. Before that, we'll just sit there and animate. So we're going to go into a while one loop or an infinite loop here because we want this to keep running until we terminate it. We don't want the ball to get to the bottom and right at midnight it just terminate and our animation stops and we don't see any more colors. Now we'll check if we're in the minute before or not, and we'll do some math on that. I'm going to calculate the seconds till our target time, so target time minus UTC now, and then dot seconds to get that difference in seconds. If it's greater than 60, our animation incrementer I is going to be 0. Otherwise, it's going to be 60 minus seconds till. So that's going to be how long is remaining here, or in that minute. Now, if the time has already passed, if now is greater than the target time, we're going to set the animation pointer to 60 so that the ball stays at the bottom. Because as I found out, if you don't do this, seconds actually rolls over and becomes a very large number, and then the ball shoots back to the top of our staff and stays there. Here is using the screen location. So we're setting on the screen the location to be 3, 0, and that's characters. So 3 rows down, 0 characters over. That's where I want to set my cursor to start this. The first thing we're going to do is print the top part of the staff. So I always want there to be 3 rows of asterisks, and then that will increase as our increment goes on. And we only are going to have 30 positions of the ball, so every couple of seconds. So I'm going to divide by 2 and use my floor function to get an integer here. So 3 rows, and then we're going to add an additional row every 2 seconds here. And in that loop, we'll just print those 3 asterisks. Then I'm going to print the top of the ball. I'm using the choice from the random module. So this choice takes a list and returns a random item from that list. So this picks a random color. We set that color for the terminal, and then we print the first line of the ball. We print down to the middle of the ball. We'll come back to this in a second. And then we print the rest of the ball. Now down here, we're printing the bottom part of the staff. I know that I want to have 31 increments here. I want to have 1 when the ball is all the way at the bottom so we can still see the staff there. And we want 30 positions. Every 2 seconds, with that floor division, we're going to subtract 1. So we're going to be adding 1 to the top, subtracting 1 from the bottom, and it looks like the ball moves down. We're going to sleep for 0.2 of a second and go back to the top of the while loop. Now, it doesn't mean that the ball is going to move. It means that every 0.2 of a second, though, it is going to change color because we're going to be going back to the top. We're going to be resetting the location, picking a new color, and going on. Notice I do set the color back to default, so I don't leave it as whatever color the ball is. Otherwise, our staff would be getting painted whatever color the ball was last time. And then at the very bottom, I'm printing out the current date time, year, month, or month, day, year, hour, minute, second format here. Now, this section in the middle says that if we're greater than or equal to our target time, we're going to put unit data in the middle of the ball. Otherwise, it's just going to be an empty ball. So let's set this to a time a little bit in the future here and run it. All right, so as you can see, we're going to be counting down to 38 past the hour. Right now, it's not quite 37, so the ball is just sitting there, changing colors and cycling. As soon as we get to 37 minutes past the hour, 1 minute before, we're now starting the animation sequence. So every 2 seconds, we add 1 more row to the top. We remove 1 row from the bottom, and it appears that the ball goes down. But we still see our terminal prompt up here because we're just repositioning that cursor and redrawing. So 5 times a second, we're redrawing this entire thing. And you can see the time at the bottom, so everybody can count down. You could add a countdown timer in the middle of the ball if you wanted. You could do all kinds of things with further ASCII animation. And it's going to keep falling. You could expand the color list. You could fill it in with some neat pattern in the center for some more visual effect. And now we're only 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And we see unit data, and the ball is just going to stay there at the bottom, animating until we use Control-C to break the program. So I hope that you actually found the idea of being able to manipulate the console print colors easily, because that's not always been the easiest thing to do, and to control the position of the cursor useful. I think you can use them in various real-time monitoring applications of your own, be it monitoring a sensor or an HPC job. But this was also a fun way for Unidata to say Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2022.